Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Cruise Line Show. Coming up, we're going to talk about 5 things you need to know about the kids' clubs on Disney Cruise Line. Coming up next. The Disney Cruise Line Show is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. Receive an exclusive gift basket and a shipboard credit up to $1,000 when you let Dreams Unlimited plan your next Disney Cruise Line vacation. You'll get the same price as booking direct with Disney, plus you'll get the assistance of a Disney Cruise Line expert to answer all your questions and help make your next Disney cruise a magical one. Get a no-obligation quote at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends and Dreams Unlimited Travel agents, Sean Falk.
Hi.
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 Hi. Sorry, I'm sending an email. I just feel like my head is somewhere
He's
else.
literally doing like agent work.
Yeah,
as
I'm
he's
literally sending somebody an email as we started.
Dreams Unlimited Travel agent Kathy Whirling.
Hi, everybody.
From the Diz, Miss Denny Sunderland.
Hi there.
Joining us via Skype, Dreams Unlimited Travel agent Jennifer Lord.
Hello, everybody.
And back in the production nook, our producer, Mr. Craig Williams.
Ahoy, hoy.
Well, welcome, folks. Hope your week is off to a good start. Just want to give a plug at the top of the show to our good friends over at fltours.com. Been working with Mo and his team for many, many years. And they are my car service of choice when I need to get to the airport or anything like that, especially with their cruise transfers. A lot of times it is more economical to use FL Tours than it is to use Disney's transfers. And it's personal, and they will stop. They will take a half hour and bring you out to the Welcome Center, the DizSports.com Welcome Center out at Port Canaveral. So if you want to stop out and see Teresa and her team out at the Welcome Center, that's a great way to do it. So fltours.com, go check them out. Okay. We are going to talk about kids clubs. And this is why I'm really glad we got 3 moms in the room who could talk about this stuff, because I honestly don't know. I mean, I know what they are, obviously, but I don't really know a lot about them. So we're going to talk about the 5 things you need to know. Let's start with the age brackets for each one, because as I look through this, I was kind of surprised they've changed it, because it used to be that Oceaneers Lab and Oceaneers Club were very different age groups. And
Well, they used to be, yes, absolutely. Back in the day, there was a hard and fast delineation between the Oceaneer Club and the Oceaneers Lab, and that is not the case anymore. Several years ago, they decided to make it a little bit more fluid so that kids could move between one and the other. Now, they move with a youth activities counselor. It's not like it's willy-nilly and children are running all over the place. But just to stop and give a quick overview, a lot of times we'll talk about Disney really being worth every penny. What you pay is absolutely, you get a lot of value for the money that you put out. This is where if you have kids that get to spend time in the kids club, this is where they shine. Oh, do it.
You have one piece
do
of
it.
hair.
Here, there we go.
One
I'll
piece
just
of
pull it
hair
out. It
had its own
happens.
mind.
It happens. Thank you, Pete. But this is where
I'm here for you, babe.
No, thanks. This is where Disney Cruise Line shines. This is one of the areas. It is a really big deal for parents to put kids in a club. Like when you need to vet a new babysitter, it's a really big deal. I'm
not going to trust your kids to just anybody.
Exactly. These are your pride and joy. So to put them in the care of someone else, it's a really big deal. And so they have, now the youngest that a kid can get on the ship is 6 months, except for a Panama Canal or transatlantic cruise. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah, it's a year for those.
Yeah, it's a year for
Really?
those. Yeah. Yes.
Year.
So from 6 months to 3 years, they can be in the It's a Small World nursery. That is something that you need reservations for in advance. That will be an extra fee. That's $4.50 a half hour for the first kid, $4 a half hour for every other kiddo. Is that still the case? Okay, that was what I found, and so and it's a 1 hour minimum block of time for reservation, and these reservations can book up really quickly. And so just like you would make a Apollo or a Remy reservation, you make an It's a Small World reservation, and it's got 105 days out, 70. So keep that in mind when you're when you're booking your cruise. If you've got a little one who's coming along with you, please, please, please try to make those reservations early.
And isn't it still true that they will only take the number of children that they can accommodate?
Yes.
And so sometimes when you look online to see if there's a room available, and you just put 2 people in it, and I'll get clients to go, well, it says there's still room available, but there may not be if you've got young children that they can't accommodate.
No.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that. I did run into that situation once where I had a family that wanted to travel with one of their kids was between 14 and 17, and there were already too many children that were within that age group on that sailing. And so the problem was there wasn't enough to accommodate that child having the access to be able to go to the appropriate clubs and stuff for them. It was already full. And even if it's a thing where you're like, they're not going to go to it or whatever, they make sure that it's blocked off in that way. So it was essentially just showing in my system that like there were no rooms available, even though they had 4 people. If I changed the ages around, it showed there was 4 people. But when I called Disney, they were like, oh, it's already full as far as the number of people in that age group that can go into that club, so we can't accommodate that, so we're not going to allow them on because then we have to let them in this club.
Oh, I never realized that.
No, and to be honest, we've never had that experience with
It's
our
very
kids,
rare,
but that's
yeah.
good to know that
Yeah.
can happen. So that's, we always say with Disney Cruise Line, you want to book early.
So
this is another advantage.
I just want to make sure I understand. So if you're booking your Disney cruise and you have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, but they've reached their quota for the number of kids that they can accommodate
Within
in the
that
clubs,
age group.
they won't even let you book the reservation.
Right.
Correct. It shows as if there are not rooms available.
Wow.
Or sometimes people will go, oh, but we wanted to add cousin Johnny to the reservation, and he's however old, and sometimes you can't do that
But
either.
this happens rarely.
Oh yeah, I've only had it happen once, and it was a very quick fix of like they were able to just move on to the next sailing. It wasn't
Yeah.
a huge deal because it was like a 3-night cruise or whatever. But it's the only time I've seen it happen. It's the only time I've heard of it happening, and it's not something where you're going to show up and be surprised that it happened because they've already blocked it out to where you just wouldn't be able to book it on there from the beginning.
All right, so we've got Small World Nursery.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Oceaneers Club and Oceaneers Lab.
So Oceaneers Club and Oceaneers Lab are both age 3 to 12. Those are the kids who can be a part of that. Now, back in the day, it was Oceaneers Club was for the littlest ones, and then you had Oceaneers Lab for your upper elementary age kids. But now they get to kind of go between different themed areas. So club might be more imaginative play, that kind of thing. And whereas club is more games, interactive things, but they can, depending on where the kids want to go and the different activities that are offered throughout the day, they can make choices and they can travel as a group over to do those different activities in the different areas. Now, when you on embarkation day, and because this is a lot for parents, when you show up at the terminal and you're wondering how in the world to even get my kids into this thing, if you've not done it via online check-in, there are crew members there to be able to help you out. Youth activities counselors are there in the terminal to answer any questions that you might have. But they'll also give you the Voyage Navigator. And in your Voyage Navigator, it's going to have a section all on the kids' activities, the youth activities. So it gives you a nice rundown of what is going to be offered on the cruise, what are some sample activities, and then just to highlight what's happening in the different sections, depending on how old your kid is. But you want to go, when you get on the ship, you go to the kids' areas. You go ahead and you have to bring parents and kids have to come. That's when the kids will get their wristband to be able to enter in and out with mom and dad. That's when you can see the physical space.
And they're amazing, okay?
And they are
But there's
amazing.
one thing I do want to mention. All of the youth activities counselors on the ship are not only specially trained and accredited to do that, they are so well vetted by Disney. So it's not just, hey, you know what? Why don't you come over and take care of these kids? When I tell you Disney Cruise Line goes through a rigorous process to determine who is allowed to do this, and they have to be. They have to be. I'm not saying other cruise lines don't. I don't think anybody else puts as much. I mean, obviously, the Disney brand, huge target for a lawsuit. They've really got to watch. But it's also that's their bread and butter, right? Mm-hmm. Families with kids.
Absolutely.
Are their bread and butter. So you're talking about, because you were talking about, hey, you choosing a new babysitter, you want to know who you're leaving your kids with. And I think that's one of the things that really need to be mentioned, that Disney is very, very, very good about who they choose.
Yeah, no, these youth activity counselors have had years of experience with sleepaway camp, with day camp. They have to even apply. I mean, that's part of the application process, is how many seasons of camp have you done with kiddos? How many times have you gotten to interact at lengths with children? They don't mess around, like you said.
No.
It's a pretty big vetting process. So if you've got middle school age kids, you've got age 11 to 14, they get to go into the Edge, and that's just a lot of fun. That they get a little bit more freedom. They get to do some scavenger hunts. They get to check themselves in and out. Now they can, if they're in upper elementary ages and mom and dad approves of that, okays on that.
Let's talk about that real quick for a second. That only certain people are allowed to check, from like Oceaneers Club and Lab. Only certain people are allowed to check those kids out. Those kids are not allowed to leave unless one of the people on the approved list shows up to get them. But when you're saying when you get to Edge, they're old enough that with their parents' approval, they're able to check themselves out? Mm-hmm. Jennifer, I'm looking at you.
That is correct, yes. So 11 to 14, they have that ability to kind of come in and out of Edge as they wish. So there is not that, like when you go into Oceaneers Lab and Club, there's a door that opens and there's secret code words, and I mean it's on lockdown in there. So the kids are not getting in and out without having a parent there unless you've approved it. So, I mean, there's overlap there. You see there's 11, you could go to Edge, 11, you could go to the Club and the Lab. So those kids might have the ability to kind of check themselves in and out if you allow them. But, with Edge, they do not have that. So they can kind of come and go as they please.
So what goes on at Edge?
Oh my gosh, lots of different activities. So they'll do things like scavenger hunts. If you look here in the Voyage Navigator, you've got Brains and Brawn. You will compete against each other to solve clues, take part in physical challenges, and reach the finish first. And then they have something called A Pirate's Life for Me, calling all pirates we be. If ye have an adventurous spirit or pirate savvy, come spin the wheel of destiny for a treasure trove of fun. Be ripe for the taking in this action-packed pirate game show. They keep them so busy. They are moving and grooving, and they're making friends that they'll have for years.
Now, one of the things I remember from the early days was, and I'm assuming this is probably still the case, but parents who would say, "Oh, my kids are not going to want to go in this," and their kids were really resistant to it, but they went. And then the parents didn't see them again for the rest of the cruise.
Yep.
It happens.
And I'm assuming that probably still happens. Mm-hmm. I remember one person telling me that she had to really, really, really push her son to go in. And I think it was the second night of the cruise. She said, we're going to see you. We'll see you for dinner. And he looked at her and said, "No, I have plans." So,
That's yeah, and it can be what so on the cruises that we went on, we always went with Grandma and Grandpa, and then my husband and I and our two kids, and that was dinner time was a hard and fast thing. Like we all came back together for dinner, but other than that, the kids had their own things. They would be a part with they'd be a part of what we had going on as a family when we wanted to, or if we were going off on shore. But man, they are hopping in these kids clubs. They can be totally immersed in that if they want to be. The last kids club area is called Vibe. That's for ages 14 through 17. And it is just a really super cool area. On the Dream and the Fantasy, they have a secret entrance to get into Vibe. And when you are in there, if you get a chance to go in during open house, please do, because it's just the coolest
because
space.
if you don't have a kid in there, you're not allowed in after that.
You can't go strolling in there. They're not gonna be happy about that. On the Magic and Wonder, they are in the Vibe is in the forward funnel. So only one of those funnels is required to actually keep the ship afloating. So the forward one is where the Vibe is. So you go up these steps, and it's just this cool environment. They have a smoothie machine up there.
They have a coffee
Yep.
bar.
It's great.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
They also have like a separate like kids spa as well, where they can get like
The chill spa.
pedicures, and
Yep.
all that. I know whenever we did the
chill-
tour to go in, I loved like they had so many like video game options and everything like that. It was a really cool hangout place.
Well,
I was sad I can't. be in there.
The chill spa is part of Senses. That's not part of
Oh,
Vibe.
right, yeah.
Same age group though. That's 14 to
ages,
17,
yeah.
and it's a very, very limited. And it's really aimed more toward girls than boys. The ice cream facial and the bubblegum manicure and stuff like that. So, so that's kind of the breakdown of the age groups.
I
I wanted to touch real quick on that open house thing, because that was very nerve-wracking for me as a parent the first time I saw that. So the Oceaneers Club and the Oceaneers Lab are attached to one another by a door in the middle, and they're open all day long. And I saw this open house happening at the Oceaneers Club, and my kids were there. And the first thing I think of is all these people walking in the door, and here are my kids. I'm going to go grab them and get them out during this open house. But what they do is they move all the kids that are there over to the lab before they open the doors for people to come in and see. And that's also a good time to acclimate your child too. If they're nervous, you can bring them in there and show them everything, but know that they're not opening the doors during that open house and allowing people in when your kids are in there. They're moving them to the other side so those kids are all still contained.
That's a good point.
And then we talked briefly about checking kids in and out. When we did our ship tour, they did tell us in the nursery part that literally only the person who checked them in can check them out.
Mm-hmm.
So even if like mom checked them in and dad comes to check them out, he cannot. So it has to be the exact person who did it there. Whereas with the other ones, it can be like an approved list.
Well, especially with babies. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you have to be even more careful
Right.
with that. All right. So those are the age brackets.
Well,
So-
I think there's also, even though it's not,
That's really trying to move on.
I know. It's an insult to call this kids club because it's not a club. It's not a separate spot. But there is technically one more age range where they do special activities for. It's the 18-20 Society. And this is for those kids who are obviously past the kids club's age, but not old enough to drink.
Because that was a problem for a long time.
Yeah, and so now these activities were happening all the time on the last cruise that I was on, and it's a lot of cool stuff like specialty coffee tastings and just random trivia that was only for them. And a lot of times we were looking at our pamphlet like, why can't we do any of these? These are what we're interested
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. The last time I went in to the Oceaneers Club, I'm like, why can't I hang out in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they have some. I mean,
The Millennium Falcon.
there's a
thing
whole
is
Millennium
amazing.
Falcon set up in there.
And there's Marvel on the Magic now. So hello.
It's crazy. It's like
It's good.
there's a reason. There's a reason. So Denny was mentioning before. You talk about the price difference. There are reasons for it. There are reasons for
Absolutely.
it. All right. So let's move on to item number 2. That was age brackets.
That was still one.
That was one. That was age brackets. I know, which is why I kept like, okay,
Let's go.
can't have another hour-long show here. Number two, how you communicate with your kids and your family
Yep.
while you're on the ship through wave phones is one of the ways.
Absolutely. There are 2 wave phones per stateroom, and these wave phones are. I mean, back in the day when I started on when my family started cruising on DCL, you had the magnetic boards on your stateroom door, and that's just the only way you could have communicated with your family. And then the wave phones came to town, and they're great. They are like your standard cordless telephone, and you throw it in your bag or your back pocket or whatever. And they can communicate. They'll send you messages. The youth activity counselors will do so to let you know, hey, Bobby Sue wants to see mom or wants to be checked out, things like that. And then you know to go ahead and check back in, go to the kids club so you can look Bobby Sue in the eyes and figure out what's going on. Be warned though, the wave phone is expensive. Mm-hmm. We had an adventure with a wave phone one time where my youngest took a wave phone and left the backpack on with the wave phone in it in Animator's Palette where they were having lunch in the kids club and they were also doing an activity, and it wasn't discovered that it was undiscovered until a couple of hours later, and there was a little bit of a panicked moment over this. So just know that's an expensive phone.
You lose it, it's $250 bucks.
Exactly it. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But Jennifer, what did you want to say about communicating?
Oh, just remember, I use the wave phone. You can also do it on the Navigator app. They can text you as long as you're on the ship. Do not believe that works on Castaway. You can only use the wave phone out there. Mm-hmm. I think the communication doesn't work as well. And just don't forget it on Castaway. Number one, don't forget to take the wave phone off the ship because there is a kids club out on Castaway too, Scuttle's Cove, that the kids can go to. And the first time we went, walked all the way off the ship. The kids saw that kids club, wanted to go in, and I was walking all the way back onto the ship to get my wave phone so they could communicate to us. So
yeah,
remember that.
And they will, even on, it's really nice, and I'm glad you said that, even on Castaway Key, they'll communicate with you if your child needs to see you, needs to touch base, that kind of thing. Wants to get back on the ship, whatever, they'll do that. But yes, definitely download the Navigator app, the DCL app. Do that. That for a multitude
especially
of
on
reasons.
the ship, boy, that works so well.
It's fantastic.
For like texting with the rest of your group.
Yep.
Although I want to tell you something, we just got off a Carnival cruise. Carnival's got the whole Wi-Fi and app thing down.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
That was the best on-ship Wi-Fi I have ever had anywhere. It was an unlimited package. It was like $15 a day, I think it was.
Okay.
Unlimited internet.
Yeah.
And it was fast.
You could get Netflix, like it did video streaming and everything.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Okay.
and like, you know, the communicating on the app was great. But I mean, the Navigator app is great. It does rely on the ship's Wi-Fi, and it's not charging you Wi-Fi, you know, for Wi-Fi minutes. For that, it's free, but ship's Wi-Fi leaves a great deal to be desired on Disney. That's one of the areas where I will ding them. Is that I don't think the Wi-Fi, and they charge you by the minute for like the regular Wi-Fi packages, and I think that's ridiculous when all the other major cruise lines are moving to unlimited packages or the availability of unlimited packages, but that's another.
And you're referring to the paper navigator. Seems recently they're not handing them out in the rooms every night.
Yep.
So
You are getting a Voyage Navigator at embarkation.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But
that one you're getting. But then
Everything else
every
is on the
night-
Navigator app.
Yeah, you can go by the evening before and pick up a paper navigator at guest services. And
But from what I understand, even that is now becoming a challenge.
sad.
Yeah, when they're gone, they were
They're
gone.
gone, yeah.
So they didn't print more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's talk about meals that are served with the kids' clubs. 'Cause I have no idea about this.
Yeah, so throughout the day, there'll be different activities. And if your kid is so in love with the activity that he or she is participating in and wants to, they can actually eat lunch, they can eat dinner with the kids' programming. Now, it's going to be different. And so sometimes my kids would be in Animator's Palette eating on an off when it's not in rotational dining. So they'd be having it with their group at lunchtime in Animator's Palette, just eating, it would be chicken tenders, it would be, kids kind of food is what they've had. Jennifer, did you have other things about that?
Yeah, same thing. Just remember, you've got to have your kids checked in 15 minutes before they serve the meal. So usually it's around like 6 and noon is around the lunchtime. So just check with them and make sure that you've got them in there 15 minutes beforehand so that you can get the meal ordered for them.
Now, this is the next item on the list. So meals that are served is
Right.
number 3. Number 4 is they'll pick them up from the dining room?
Yeah, so it's cool. It's called Dine and Play, and again, it's explained in your Voyage Navigator. If you get to the terminal and you still need more details,
It's also known as Get Out, Mommy Wants to Get Drunk.
right. Well, maybe. I mean, it's you do you. It's
That's
your
what Denny.
vacation.
That's what Denny calls.
No,
Kidding.
But yeah, so when you, for our family, we didn't do this so much because we're all eating as a family. But sometimes when your little one is really little, to be able to sit through the seating, especially if you have second seating, because that's late, that starts about 8:15, it's a big deal. It's kind of a stretch. And so what this does, as soon as you check in, as soon as you walk into your rotational dining location for the evening, you let your server know that you'd like to participate in a Dine and Play. Bobby Sue is going to go with the youth activities counselors when it's time. Perfect. They will go ahead and get Bobby Sue's meal out to the table much, much earlier than everyone else's. Bobby Sue eats, and then you'll see the magical yellow-shirted youth activity counselors come to the front of the restaurant, and you can send Bobby Sue off to go have a great time. That way you can finish your meal at your leisure, as you would like to, and Bobby Sue is off being a kiddo of the age of 5 and enjoying every minute of it. You can do this both at both rotations, both seating, so first or second. So they'll pick you up if you're doing first seating about 6:45. That's when the youth activities counselors will show up at the front of the restaurant for any kids. They're like the Pied Piper, and the kids just come flowing from their tables. About 9:15 is when they're going to come for the second seating kiddos. It's just a nice kind of option to have. And depending on the day, your kid may need a shorter dinner time so that they can go get some wiggles.
And I just, again, I'm not a parent, but I have to imagine that having services like this, like these kids clubs and what we're talking about with the Dine and Play, because you don't get a break, do you? I mean, normally, like this is, you always have to be on top of your kids. Yeah. So this actually gives you a chance to like put them someplace you know is safe. And then let's say, you want to go have a spa treatment or you want to go hang out at the pool in the adults area. Yeah. That's got to be nice.
It's a vacation for the entire family. You can be as together as you want to be, and then you can be. You can have those times where you are apart. And I mean, sometimes when we go on other vacations, mom or dad, I mean, you're constantly schlepping everything, and it's so stressful to even get there. And then you are constantly caring for the rest of the family when you're on vacation, which is great. That's the gig you signed up for, But DCL just allows everyone to have their own fun individually, should they want it.
And I do want to throw in there as well, from our agency side, every now and then you'll get somebody who comes through, and if they can't get first dining right off the bat, they do not want to go on this because they're like, I'm not having my kid do second dining. We're not doing it. There is a big appeal to second dining, even for people with younger kids. Doing second dining is going to allow you to be off the ship a little closer to, the time, our port time, whenever it gets back on. Because, I mean, if you have dinner at 5 o'clock, a lot of times we're not leaving port until between 4:30 and 5:30.
Yeah.
You need to already be back on. You need to be getting ready. You need to do all your thing. So if you wait, take the late dining, you can see the show the first time. Your child will actually be awake to see the show, because a lot of times that's an issue. They have dining first and then they fall asleep during the show. So you can have a little bit of extra time, go see the show first, go to dinner, have your child eat quickly, and then they can do this dine and play option. Like it's like, just because you don't get first dining, it's not. There is a really great, which to me is better. I find it more appealing to do the second dining, but to each their own. But first dining does fill up really quickly, and this is a great workaround for that. And it's just something to keep in mind of. It's not the end of the world, and it actually may even be a blessing in disguise that you get second instead of first.
Yeah, our kids were 8 and 4 on our first DCL cruise, and we did second seating and for dining, and we loved it, every single minute of it, for all the reasons you said and more. The kids got to really enjoy the show in the theater, and then they got to come and have dinner. And it's just a special little time of wind down, and the family gets to touch base about, okay, what did you do today? And what was your favorite part? And you just laugh over all the things that happened that day. And we're not at all rushed in port to get back to the ship and get showered and get down.
And
downstairs.
You're not rushed in port, and you're also not rushed at dinner, because if you want to go get the best seats and all that kind of stuff, like people rush through that first dinner trying to make sure they can get to the theater to have those best seats that they want to have and everything like that. Just second dining's fine. Second dining's okay. Whatever they're like, so just breathe.
Yeah,
second dining's
that's
fine.
that's our preferred dining too. Our first cruise, my daughter was 3, and we were like, we have to have first seating. She's only 3 years old. She's gonna have to eat. We waitlisted it. We got it. It lasted one night, and we were done. Because the same thing, we were rushing out of the pool. We were rushing. And then the worst part was my kids didn't want to go to the show. They wanted to go back to the kids club. Yeah. And I'm trying to tell them, like, no. You really want to go to this show. They're like,
no, they really don't
want to go back to the kids club, because they didn't know. So that's second seating all the way for us for all those same reasons. It's just a streamlined night.
Well, you know my feeling on the stage shows on Disney. I mean, look, the specialty ones like we saw Frozen, that was spectacular. The rest of them, don't punish your children.
The Tangled one on the Magic is phenomenal as well.
Well, like the specialty ones.
Gotcha. I got what you're saying.
So, but like the regular one is just
Golden Mickey's isn't your thing.
Oh my God, that was so bad. That was so incredibly bad on so many levels. I was like embarrassed for those cast members. Oh my God, it was awful.
The Golden Mickey's.
It's terrible.
I mean, it needs an update. Like, it is the same.
It needs to be. Look, it's not like Disney doesn't have the theatrical talent to pull off really good shows. They don't have to be doing crap like that. And it just, never mind. It just bothers me. You say Broadway caliber. No. Now that Frozen thing,
yes,
I was like, okay, wow, that's Broadway caliber. You know what? And it's not the cast members. The cast members are incredibly talented. They have to work with what they're given, and you're going to hand these poor cast members a pile of crap. They're going to do their best with it, but it's not. It's Disney's fault. They got it. You can do things like Frozen. Do that every damn night. Do that every night. I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent there. All right. Last thing on the list. Activities that are offered throughout the day on the cruise for kids. Talk to me about these things.
Yeah.
Other than the kids clubs, I guess.
Well, okay. So other than the kids clubs, it's really you can do family. There are family activities. There are craft sessions, and Kathy, I'm sure you've done, because that's your love language is crafting. I'm sure. I mean, right?
Yeah, they were rather
Her love
lame.
language.
Yeah, but like
It's true.
I've done with my youngest. We went and made buttons one night in the piazza. Yeah, so in the piazza area, so it's the lounge area on the Fantasy. It's not being used during the day necessarily, and so you got to make cool buttons, and the counselor, youth activities counselor, or whoever's the entertainment staff who's there at the time has the button making machine, and so you got to roll out of there. So there's trivia throughout the day. There's crafting throughout the day.
There's usually stuff down in the atrium too.
Yep. They'll do the diaper dash for the littlest ones, and that's a lot of fun to see, kids in diapers race across this mat. And of course, there are always a lot of character meet and greets. You could spend your entire day doing nothing but meeting characters. And so that's where it becomes really, really important to have the Navigator app, to sit down with your family, even before the cruise, look on the boards, check out the DCL forum on Disboards. That was the biggest blessing. Oh my gosh, just all the people who had been there and done that. When I was first getting into Disney Cruise Line, I could go there and get all the answers that I needed. But definitely sit down and look at what those options are so that you know what your kids are really would enjoy the most on that cruise. But yes, there's plenty to do as a family. Of course, the pools, everything up on the top deck. There's so much that's available to you, even if your kids aren't into the kids clubs.
Yeah, and like the sailing away party, it's a great way to start your cruise, having your kids up on deck, jumping around and dancing as the characters come out and sing, and the horn goes off as you're pulling out, and it's like it really starts the cruise off well. And so if you're not going to be the family that wants to meet the characters throughout the cruise, take the time to do that, because it is very time consuming. You have that, and then you have See You Real Soon at the end of your cruise, where at least you can get that taste of having the characters if you're not doing meet and greets, the shows, and all those. So
absolutely.
I think it's important too to point out. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of my favorite memories on the cruise line was watching a parent push people out of the way to get to go see Cinderella. And I'm like, that was a little upsetting watching this mother plow through the people. But to think that a mother was so excited that she had to go see Cinderella.
Yeah. Yeah, that's charming. That's charming, yeah. Pushing people out of the way to go see Cinderella. And then she was made to walk the plank. All right, so there you have it. Anything else you want?
Jennifer had something.
Oh, Jennifer, you had something to add.
Well, I just wanted to point out that there are organized activities within the kids clubs, where the kids are being watched and stuff. And there's organized activities. There's also, I think, the organized activities to an extent are secondary to just the fact that it's free play as well. So if your kids aren't into, being involved in an organized activity like the cooking classes, or, there's like a science experiment class and everything, if they're not really into that and they're just more of a free play kind of kid, they could have just as much fun in those kids clubs as well. And that goes for, Vibe and Edge as well. There's gaming consoles and tablets and stuff they can use. So there's a lot of things to do that are either organized or non-organized for the kids at all times on the ship.
Absolutely.
I had a question, because I don't have kids. So I've always felt like the age gap of 3 to 11 is very large for one club of kids together. Do y'all find is there enough variety in there, in your opinion, to range? I mean, 3-year-olds don't really hang out with 11-year-olds a lot. Right. So that's not really. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think even though they expanded that to where the Oceaneers Club and the lab are 3 to 12, when you go in, you kind of notice that those 10, 11, 12-year-olds are still over at the lab, and you still have the younger kids, just because it's Tinkerbell, it's Toy Story and stuff on the other side. And then when you go over the other side is where the classes are and the crafts. And so the lab more geared, even though it's open to everybody, it is more geared to, and I think that kind of started because of sibling issues.
Yes.
My daughters are 5 years apart, so they still like to do the two things together, but this is my older daughter's side and this is kind of the younger side, so but I still think you have that divide.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they are definitely like Jennifer said, they're geared specifically for those age ranges. So yes, you have the option to go over there, but as a 5-year-old you might just drift over to this part because this is crafted more for your age range.
Gotcha.
But yeah, definitely. If you are, just one last thing real quick, if this is your first Disney Cruise Line and you're trying to get your kids geared up to understanding, because a lot of it can seem really scary, I mean, even for kids who have been there and done that, it's still, if it's been a couple of years since your last cruise, it's scary to go back in there and feel like the new kid and try to make friends with all the other kids. Disney Cruise Line has a 30-page booklet on their website called My Disney Cruise Adventure Booklet. You can download that, you can print that off, and that has different activities and things for your kid to kind of embrace the thought of going on this cruise and what this is going to be like. So Disney Cruise has even given you activities to do with your kids before your vacation for them to really warm up to the idea and demystify a little bit what's going to happen on the ship. So,
All right. Well, I learned a lot. I mean, then again, I don't have kids, so but this was great. Thank you guys so much. That is going to do it for this episode of our show. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next week with another edition of the Disney Cruise Line Show. Have a great week, folks.